morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are. Thank you for joining us. You, again, made a great decision to join the Home Court Design podcast today. We've got a lot to jump into on today's podcast. So a lot's been going on in the NBA over the past couple of weeks since we last talked. Carmelo Anthony finally got traded. He got traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So what does that look like? We're going to dive in. As well as ESPN's top 10 player ranking. Just kind of all the, is it a fair ranking for all the players that are involved? We'll dissect that. As well, Dwayne Wade gets bought out by the Bulls, and he is signing with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we'll look into that, as well as the NBA is lengthening its schedule. So we're gonna jump into a fourth topic if we have time. But the NBA is lengthening its schedule, so we'll dissect that and what that means. But before we get into everything, I want to introduce a special guest analyst with us today. It's an old childhood friend of mine. We've been balling it up since we were little kids. So he's an avid basketball enthusiast, and he knows his ball. So I'm pleased to welcome Brian Kahaku to the podcast. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks Tom for having me.
I don't know if you wanna give anybody kind of a little bit of background as far as your background with basketball, or just kind of what your interests are with the NBA.
Oh, I just love basketball for like almost my entire life.
Yeah.
Probably during high school. That's probably when I stopped watching it. For reasons. Francis, that's you.
Yeah. Francis made you not want to watch ball?
Oh, it's just
I find that hard to believe.
he didn't make me not want to watch ball. What it was is just I don't know, maybe the politics around high school basketball, but it made me a little mad that he didn't make the team, and I thought he was well enough to make the team. Yeah,
for all of you kids out there who are playing high school basketball, honestly, I feel if you don't make the team, just go play AAU, man. The competition's better. Like, I made the basketball team, but we both got a good friend, Francis, who should have made the team and didn't, so it's kind of a shame. But yeah, well, hey, glad to have you on, so can't wait to jump into some of this. I know you're a very charismatic individual, so it should be a good conversation. So,
charismatic,
So with all that, we're going to go ahead and check into our first topic. So Carmelo Anthony gets traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's been a long time coming. A lot of people wanted to see him get out of New York. So he's been with the New York Knicks for the past, I think it's been about 4 years or so. It was only a matter of time before he finally got traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So really that forms a real nice trio, big three in Oklahoma City now with the acquisition of Paul George earlier this summer, and then now Carmelo Anthony. Russell Westbrook is going to have a lot to work with. So really what I want to start off by asking you, Brian, is so how good do you think the Thunder can be? Are they going to be a top 2, 3, 4 seed in the West, or maybe even a number 1 seed?
I doubt they're going to be a number 1 seed. The Golden State Warriors is always going to take that. They had their team. They're still molded together. Even with Durant coming in, Durant helped that team. He focused on like being with the team instead of like an individual, like usually when someone comes to a different team. That's the reason why Golden State just meshed so well, because he took down a notch to make sure that the ball handling went to Steph Curry. He didn't have to be in his hands all the time. And that's exactly what happened. And I think OKC is probably going to be top 4, yes. But the best in the West, no.
So who would you put over Oklahoma City in the West? Obviously the Warriors, but who else are we talking?
Well, it's hard to say. Just the Warriors, I know, are number 1, but just top 4. Like, you got the Rockets as possibly can be up there. You got the Spurs are possibly up there. And hell, man, I'm gonna even say a random team that maybe be up there. I mean, they showed that they can do everything. It's just the problem was they weren't executing their defense well enough, especially with a defensive coach. But I think the Timberwolves are gonna make a run for it.
Oh man, hot take of the week, man. Hot take of the week, Timberwolves, man. I don't know. So I obviously agree. The Warriors, number 1, they're the class of the West. Nobody's even sniffing them right now. I mean, there are teams that could. I mean, it obviously all remains to be seen. But I think Oklahoma City, and I'll be honest, I love the Spurs, and we always underestimate the Spurs. That's why I never like to do that. But Oklahoma City with this big three, I think really puts them over the Spurs and the Rockets. I think they're the clear number 2 seed in the West, and the reason I say that is because I don't know anybody who's got a more competitive fervor than Russell Westbrook. And now that he's actually got teammates that, I mean, I know Melo's kind of in the twilight of his career. He's clearly not in his prime, but he's not a scrub. He definitely can get you buckets. But now that he's got Paul George, who's a great two-way player, I think those three, with the team surrounding them, they got Patrick Patterson and Steven Adams. and then Andre Roberson, who can't shoot, but is there more for defense. I think that's a really good squad. I clearly would put them over the Rockets. I love Chris Paul. I love the acquisition there, but I don't see that. I mean, obviously they're a good team that can score, but they don't have that big three that Oklahoma City has. The Rockets I don't feel like can overcome just the massive amount of talent they have.
I think they can.
You think they can?
I think what's going to happen is Harden's going to move to the shooting guard position. Paul's going to be the point guard, and Harden doesn't. He now has like the rock over his shoulder. It's gone now. He doesn't have to take the team as being the number one ball handler. You have Chris Paul now who can dish it out to him. It's going to be like OKC all over again for him, and he doesn't have to worry too much anymore.
Now that you bring up an interesting point because Harden, really was an MVP level player at the point guard position. So moving him back to the shooting guard position, I would even say, it kind of remains to be seen with a point guard like Chris Paul, but are we going to see the same MVP level of play that Harden was displaying when he was the point guard? I don't know. I think it remains to be seen. Those are both players that need the ball in their hands to be effective.
I don't think so. Look at some of the greatest players who went to the shooting guard position, and they've still won MVP and done all that stuff.
I will agree with that. The great players, they always figure out a way to make it work.
Look at Magic Johnson. Remember? The dude was amazing as a point guard, right? And then finally they just said, hey, you know what? This is your team. You take over the team. And then Kareem was kind of like dwindling down, so they give it to Magic. And what did he do that year that he actually stepped it up from being a point guard? He actually got the MVP and everything else like that. Right. He was more acting like a shooting guard too in that time. Right.
So it will be interesting to see the synergy if they can make it mesh with each other. So just kind of sticking with the OKC Thunder. As far as just the players on this roster, the three of them, the two acquisitions, Paul George and Melo, with Russell Westbrook, how do you see those three fitting together? Do their games mesh, or do you think they're going to have issues?
I think they're going to have a lot of issues. You have two guys on the team who probably need the ball in their hands at all times. You have Westbrook who needs it in his hands, and then you're going to have Melo now who's going to need it in his hands. Because even watching the Olympics, he was kind of like the same way like that. You know, he kind of took over and did everything with the young team that he had. But with Westbrook, it's just he's proven himself to be a rebounder, to be a passer, to be a shooter. I would want him to have the ball in his hands at all times, and I would want Melo to do what Melo does without controlling everything.
Which is get buckets.
Yeah. And you can still get buckets because Westbrook shows that he doesn't want to always shoot the ball all the time. Right. But yet again, he was getting all those numbers, but the triple-doubles also means that he's getting assists, he's passing the ball, he's getting the rebounds, he's being a team player with everyone.
And he's displayed that ability, right, to pass the ball, and that was always the frustrating thing when he had Durant, which I think if you look at it, Paul George and Melo, they are lesser players than a Kevin Durant, so if Westbrook couldn't get it done with Durant, there are a lot of question marks. Can he get it done with less superior players? But I think Westbrook has always shown the ability, and so I'm hopeful on paper. I think these guys will mesh, but it's really just if they can put their egos aside. Because Westbrook, if he can be that distributor and be the guy who's orchestrating the offense and not feel like he's got to score all the time. Paul George, who really I feel like because he's such a great two-way player, if he can exercise that defensive prowess he has. And then Melo can just be your guy that you go to in the clutch and just gets you buckets because that's really at this point in his career what he does best. I think if they all know their roles and just stick to them, I think they can play great together. But obviously it remains to be seen.
Like I said, that is the main problem the Warriors had. Remember?
Yeah.
They were having problems. Green was yelling at Durant because Durant was making unintelligent shots and doing unintelligent things with Curry and Thompson still on the floor. You're just like,
but how many games did they win last year though with all those problems?
They still won, but the thing was you saw that they were getting a little frustrated at some points. Even the Lakers beat them.
Right.
And,
that's true.
And you're just like,
it's the one thing the Lakers did right last year. They beat the
But yet again, when did they beat them? It was the beginning of the season.
Yeah, when
and they still haven't meshed anything out. That's why I'm telling you, the Warriors.
The Warriors are the class of the West.
They still have it, and
they are the class of the West.
It's like I said, Paul George, no problem. Paul George probably is gonna know his role. He's gonna know like, hey, look, I don't need to be that guy now. I'm not on the Pacers anymore. I'm on a team that's elite, and we can probably go further than I've ever gone before. So that's why I think Paul George is gonna do fantastic with them. It's just I think they could have done without Melo. That's my opinion.
Right.
And I think they would have. I think they'll go farther without Melo.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, well, let's go ahead and jump into the next topic here. So ESPN came out with the top 10 player ranking a couple of weeks ago. So really, this list, it's all subjective. It's ESPN. They have a panel of analysts who rank the top players all throughout the league. So the top 10 really kind of sparked a lot of controversy. So I'm going to go ahead and list out the players here real quick, and then we can just dissect if we think the list is fair or not. So at number 10 was Draymond Green, got ranked number 10, and this is throughout the whole NBA. Number 9 is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Number 8 is James Harden. Number 7 is Chris Paul. Number 8 is Anthony Davis. Number 5, Russell Westbrook. Number 4, Stephen Curry. Number 3, Kawhi Leonard. Number 2, Kevin Durant. And then number 1, LeBron James. So, Brian, I'll start with you. Do you think this list is fair, or do you think it needs to be reorganized in any way?
Quite honestly, I just think the top 5 probably needs to be a little bit reorganized. It's other than LeBron James, yes, he deserves the number 1 spot. LeBron James has proven that he doesn't need the ball all the time, that he can be a supporting character if he needs to, but when he needs to be that guy, he can turn it on. That's what makes LeBron so amazing. His basketball IQ is so just out there that he knows he can just do it when he needs to do it,
right.
And when he needs to turn it on, he'll turn it on, turn it off when he needs to turn it off. But
so you would put LeBron over Kevin Durant in this situation?
Of course, I'd put him over.
By what kind of margin are we talking about here?
I would probably drop Kevin Durant probably to the fourth or third spot. And the main reason behind that is because I'm a guy who, Durant was very, he's a good defensive player, but Kawhi Leonard, I think, is a better defensive player than him. And I think because of Kawhi Leonard's defensive capabilities, ranks him higher than Durant, and that's why I think Kawhi should move up more. And I think, like I told you, Westbrook already proved himself last season with those triple-doubles that he's been having over and over and over again. And I would put him at 2, Leonard at 3, him at 4.
So here's the thing. So for me personally, the one thing Kevin Durant does so well, and I don't think I've seen anything like it. I mean, maybe Melo as far as just a pure scorer, but Kevin Durant can score the ball at such a efficient clip, and I think that impact on the game is so substantial. I actually put him at number 1. I think Kevin Durant's the best player in the league. And if people don't believe that, they're going to believe that at the end of this season. Because Kevin Durant, the impact he has on the game as far as scoring the ball, and he is an improved defensive player. I mean, I think he even led the team in blocks in this past year. Or if he didn't, he was second to Draymond Green. But he showed great defensive prowess that I think has that really elevates him to the number 1 spot, but mainly because of his scoring prowess. I mean, he does it so efficiently. And LeBron James, don't get me wrong, it's nip and tuck. LeBron James it's just slightly over LeBron James, but LeBron James, he as great as a facilitator and as great as he is at controlling the game, it's just the fact that you can't rely on him as much as you can as Kevin Durant, just in the clutch moments. And that's part of the reason why I like Kobe over LeBron James, is because Kobe was so clutch in clutch moments, and he willed the team to the win. LeBron, I don't think, can do that. He's great in every other facet, but that's such an important facet of the game. I put Kevin Durant over LeBron James. I think that to me is the main thing that sticks out. And then the second thing is Harden. I think Harden shouldn't be number 8. Harden's clearly a better player at number 8. I put him at least at number 6.
Yes, that's something we both can agree on.
At the very least.
If I had to go into the bottom half, I would say he would probably at least over Chris Paul. I don't understand why Chris Paul was over him.
Agreed. But I do agree with you on that.
But I have to go back to that, you putting Kevin Durant at number 1. The thing that sticks out the most to me was the game in the playoffs against the Spurs. Who shut him down?
Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi Leonard shut him down.
But when we're talking shutting him down,
well, the thing was, you remember that game? They were down, and then Kawhi just gets injured. and he can't go back in. What quarter was it? It was like the third or fourth quarter,
Right,
correct?
right.
And they were down by like 20 points, 15 points at that time.
Yeah.
If Kawhi stayed in, I'm pretty sure they would have shut down Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant would have been able to do nothing. And that is why
I'm not so sure of that.
That is why I always put defense over anything.
I love Kawhi Leonard. I think Kawhi Leonard's he's the best two-way player in the game, clearly. And I don't know what it is about Kawhi Leonard. It's just, maybe it's because he's so quiet. I just don't trust him as much. His defense is great. His offense, I don't know, it just seems spotty. Like, I mean, maybe I need to see more of him to really trust that he can be that guy who can just will the team and make other guys better around him.
What about Durant? Not Durant. My bad. Duncan. Sorry, I got the two D's messed up.
What about him?
Duncan is the exact same personality as
Right.
Leonard.
He's a cold-blooded killer.
And he basically brought that team there with Parker and everyone else on that team. He brought them and won them. How many championships?
Yeah, 5, I think. Yeah. I mean, it's close. That top three is really close. I mean, with Leonard and LeBron and Durant, it's so tough to say. I think LeBron's impact on a team is better than Durant's. Same with Kawhi Leonard. But I think Kevin Durant's impact on the game is much more impactful than a LeBron James or Kawhi Leonard, mainly because of his scoring prowess. But that's just me.
Like I said, with Leonard, defensiveness, defense, everything has to do with defense with me. If you can't score, you can't win.
Right.
All you need is 1 point. If
Right.
if the Spurs are up by 1 point, and Kawhi Leonard shut down the guy who can't shoot, and it literally is 1-0 at the end of the game, who won?
I'm not so sure.
Who won?
Agreed. I'm just not so sure Kawhi Leonard's going to limit Kevin Durant to sub 25 points.
I understand, but that's the only subtext I can probably put into it.
Agreed. Well, I guess we'll see. We'll see if they meet each other in the playoffs. So moving on to the next topic here. I know we're kind of running out of time, but the next topic. So Dwayne Wade got bought out by the Chicago Bulls. A lot of people speculated that was going to happen. So he ends up signing with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So going back to play with LeBron James, first time since they played in Miami together. So really, we don't have to spend too much time on this, but I just wanted to touch on it. So really, what does Dwayne Wade bring to this Cavaliers team? Does he bring them any closer to beating this Warriors team?
No.
And why would you say
Not
that?
at all. The whole buyout process for Dwayne Wade, he's living his fantasy world. Mm-hmm. He's already done. Mm-hmm. If he already was done when he left Miami. If he was gonna pull a Kobe, he would have stayed in Miami, retired in Miami, but he went to Chicago to go play for his Chicago team, and now he got bought out, went to Cleveland.
And we know part of the reason was that because Pat Riley, obviously, I think, just really disrespected Dwayne Wade, didn't give him the money that he deserved. And I don't know if you know this, Dwayne Wade was never the highest paid player on the Miami Heat at any point in his career with the Miami Heat. That's insane. How is Dwayne Wade never the highest paid player on the Miami Heat? I don't get that.
He probably was a smarter player than Kobe at the time because Kobe wanted the money all the time, and the Lakers could give him the money. You think Miami could give him the money? It's like, look, we're in rebuilding stage. We got Chris Bosh who's going right here. I can't give you the money you need.
Right.
So that's why he probably went to Chicago, got bought out, and now is going to play with his friend. Probably going to be his last year, unless LeBron comes to LA.
Yeah.
LeBron comes to LA, he's probably going to follow.
He comes on the veterans minimum,
and then he'll leave or something else like that.
So here's my take on this, and then we can jump to the next one. So Dwayne Wade, I think, does make them better. I think Dwayne Wade, he averaged 18 points a game. I think it was on about 43% shooting last year. Not a great shooting percentage, but I think playing with LeBron James, that shooting percentage will go up. I think he does still give you a clutch player who can make big plays, and especially with the NBA lengthening the season and the playoffs being such a long time period, he'll get the rest, and I think it'll really be in the playoffs where you'll see a great version of Dwayne Wade, assuming he's healthy. Does this bring them any closer to beating the Warriors? I'd say it makes them a little bit better, mainly because who was their starting two guard before Dwayne Wade got there? It was J.R. Smith or Iman Shumpert. And I'm sorry, I'll take a 35-year-old, 36-year-old Dwayne Wade over J.R. Smith any day of the week.
Yeah.
So I think this does make them better. They're a very, very deep team, but the Warriors are just so front-loaded. They've got 4 potential Hall of Famers on that team currently. Even though it makes them better and a better team to face the Warriors, with Isaiah Thomas, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Jay Crowder, and then potentially Kevin Love or Tristan Thompson as a starting 5, I just don't see that beating Durant, Draymond, Clay and Steph, and whoever they want to plug in at center, Zaza Pachulia. And
problem though with me is I don't think Cleveland is even going to make it to the championship game.
Oh, you think Boston's gonna?
I think Boston's gonna knock them out. Oh. I think that trade was forced. It was pushed.
Sure.
And I don't think Thomas is going to make the bigger impact as Irving did on the
Kyrie.
Guy, what he had on the Cavaliers.
Right.
He had a bigger impact with them. Thomas had a bigger impact with Boston because he was small enough. He went around everything. And they relied on him. And he doesn't know. You can't use defense with him.
Right.
It is hard with him. And then now Boston's just.
I will agree with you on that. I think an Isaiah Thomas, Dwayne Wade backcourt is going to be atrocious defensively. I don't. That's going to be probably one of the worst defensive backcourts. And the only thing I'll say, and then we can jump to the next topic because we're running out of time. Boston lost a lot in this past offseason. They actually only have 4 of their players from the previous season returning this season. So, and mainly they lost Jay Crowder and Avery Bradley, who I think were just their defensive stalwarts. And without those guys, I think it's going to be interesting. They've got a lot of good pieces. But it's hard for me to bet against LeBron James. So I actually would roll with the Cavs.
I'm going to tell you right now, his name's Hayward.
Yeah.
That dude,
right.
that dude,
I
with the
like
that dude with the Jazz, and then he came over to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, Hayward is going to be like one of the biggest difference with them.
Yeah.
And now that I feel like that team's is better than the Cavaliers.
Actually, that'll be a good conversation for the next pod. So we'll jump into the last topic here. We can't stay too long on it because we're running out of time. But so the NBA decided to lengthen the schedule, mainly to combat the fact that players are taking rest and not being injured, but would take rest just throughout the season to make sure that they were more just rested for the playoffs and to lengthen their careers. And there's a whole science behind it. But obviously this is unfortunate for NBA fans who go to these games to see these players like LeBron James and Steph Curry to play, and then they end up resting. So the NBA is going to lengthen the schedule a week to help players get more rest and eliminate back-to-backs and no more 4 games in 5 nights, that kind of thing. So I want to ask you, Brian, real quick, do you like this lengthening of the schedule, and do you think this will solve the problem?
No, it's not going to solve the problem. Do I like it? It's okay. I don't care too much about it. It's just we get maybe another week of basketball. We can see random games going on. But other than that, these guys, like I said, Charles Barkley put it down just the nail in the gun right there. And he just said, I think you got 20, 30, 40 million dollar players crying about playing.
Right.
When he was playing, he wasn't even making that money. He was playing like...
Yeah, actually, we got the quote here. We got a little bit of time here. We got at least a minute, so we can jump into the quote that Charles Barkley actually, he put it, as Charles Barkley does put it. He's very blunt. So this is Charles Barkley from BusinessInsider.com. He says, quote, "These poor babies can't play back-to-back games. They're making 20, 30, 40 million a year, but we want to make it convenient for them. At 40 million a year, we can't stress them out." And he goes on to say, "The private jets and 4-star hotels aren't enough." Close quote. So Charles Barkley doesn't mince words here. He says the players are just kind of weak compared to his generation, which most old players say that. But in my opinion, I agree. I don't think this is going to stop players from resting. I think you're just going to see more lies. I think you're just going to see more. My ankle hurts, or oh no, I got the flu.
Yeah.
But they won't say it's going to that they're resting. But I think it won't stop that.
I feel. Like, if I can just get the last thing in on this, I just feel with them doing this, it's not going to do anything. All it's going to do, like you said, it's just going to, I got an ankle injury, I got this kind of injury. But the problem really comes down to the coach on this issue. I mean, Greg Popovich, great coach ever. But if you really think about it, these guys are playing, 40 minutes a game, 42 minutes a game. I understand that's a lot to put in a body to play 4 games out of the week, 4 to 5 games out of the week. But if they actually minimize that, to like 30 minutes, maybe to 25 minutes, and still get the product off their bench and everything, then maybe you can start resting your stars and start using them the most in the postseason.
Agreed.
But the problem is you're spending so much money on these one players, and then you got this tax bracket going in, and you're just like, you don't have a bench who can support your role, and that's why probably these players can't go on for a long time.
Right. No, I agree. Those are all fair points. So we're actually out of time. Great stuff. We'll definitely get into more of this on the next podcast. So So I'll do in a separate video. I'll give you guys an update on the home court design and where we're at with the design process. But so that does it for us for the Home Court Design Podcast this week. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Brian, appreciate you coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. We'll bring you out again soon. It was all great stuff. And then maybe we'll get Francis to come out. He's got to not be camera shy. See, Brian can do it, so you can do it, Francis. But that does it for us. Hope you guys enjoy the week. I think training camp's already started, so dive into that, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. All right, take care.